A very good afternoon to all of you. Today I am going to discuss neuro-linguistic programming. The topic in question is really very thought-provoking and a little bit complicated also, but when we try to define it, it is neuro-linguistic and programming. What is neuro-linguistic programming? How to define it? So we should know that neuro means nerves, linguistic means language, and programming means how to produce, how to process the entire system in our mind. So as the definition is that we must learn to understand the out of awareness. Now what is the meaning of out of awareness? Persuasion without knowing that you are persuading somebody, and aspects of communication, and we must never assume that we are fully aware of what we communicate to someone else. That is to say, it should be very normal, it should be automatic, it should be spontaneous. There exists in the world today tremendous distortion in meaning as men try to communicate with one another. I mean, this is the quote by Hall in Silent Language. So slowly, gradually we shall discuss that how important neuro-linguistics and its introduction. So as I said that it is the nerves, the language and the programming, that is the processing. So it stands for neuro-linguistic programming, a name that encompasses the three most influential components. What are these three influential components involved in this whole process? Neurology, language and programming. So the neurological system regulates how our bodies function. Language determines how we interface and communicate with other people, and our programming determines the kinds of models of the world we create. Means the type of language required to a particular situation. So NLP, that is neuro-linguistic programming, describes the fundamental dynamics between mind, that is neuro, language, that is linguistic, and how their interplay affects our body and behavior, that is programming. So here is neuro-linguistic programming, and as the quote shows that neuro-linguistic programming is about the ability to discover and change the way we communicate internally with ourselves and externally with others in order to achieve our specific and desired outcomes. To communicate in a very professional manner, in a very effective manner, especially in a professional world and in this globalized world, NLP is a term which is very important to enhance the personality. So, what is NLP? As I said, that what could be and what should be the aptest definition of NLP. So some of the definitions I have quoted from dictionary as well. Official definition of NLP is the study of subjective behavior. What does it mean? Subjective means very personal. Your internal, your mind is your mind, your body, your behavior is yours, and the processing is yours. So it is the subjective behavior, that how you speak, how you behave with other. The other definition quoted from Oxford English Dictionary is a model of interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication chiefly concerned with the relationship between successful patterns of behavior and the subjective experience. Means that the sender and the receiver, that is the interpersonal communication, sender and receiver, that is based on the subjective experience. That is to say that how much you have trained yourself. And then further, the Northern School of NLP and associated studies, how they define modeling is the process of understanding how a person thinks, and NLP is the mindset and tools which enables us to do this. Very important definition, because any kind of communication, that is to say the effective communication, the professional communication, is based on modeling. What is to model? That is how to process. So it is sometimes very personal, it is sometimes very subjective. So what is required? A kind of training, and NLP is a kind of training that gives that how to enhance language. Now, it is also said that NLP is the pragmatic school of thought. What is pragmatic school of thought? Very important to know if we analyze, define the neuro-linguistic programming. So NLP is a pragmatic school of thought. Now epistemology, what does it mean? That addresses the many levels involved being human. Being human, many level involves in being human. That is that the very thinking process is already there in the mind. In human mind. NLP is a multi-dimensional process that involves the development of behavioral competence. Behavioral competence, I mean, it involves in the development, because earlier we discussed the subjective behavior that is very personal to your. So development of behavioral competence and flexibility. You have to accommodate, you have to adjust, and you have to behave as per the situation demands, but also involves a strategic thinking and an understanding of the mental and cognitive processes behind behavior. What is a strategy? A kind of planning. What is cognitive? Your mental process. So as per the situation demand, you have to revive and you have to relocate your communicative process. So NLP provides tools and skills for the development of states of individual excellence. Exactly. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is a kind of method, a kind of tool that gives excellence to a person to think, to behave, and to enhance, enrich one's language. But it also establishes a system of empowering belief. What is belief? The ideology. Belief, the very way of thinking, and presuppositions about what human beings are, what communication is, and what the process of change is all about. Because we all know that language is alive. Language is alive means language needs changes. And how language needs changes with the development of society, and how we recognize and how we realize that society is changing, it is our brain. So at another level, neuro-linguistic programming is about the self-discovery. Very important introduction to neuro-linguistic programming, self-discovery. What I personally think that at this scenario, in the present age of 21st century science and technology, it is not important that you are having high CGPA. What is important that how you excel, how you unlayered, unfold in front of others. So it is about self-discovery, exploring identity and mission. It also provides a framework for understanding and relating to the spiritual part of human experience that beyond us as individuals, to our family, community, and global system. What is a spiritual part? It doesn't mean some kind of religion, some kind of rigidity. Spiritual means a kind of purity, purity of thought, a very noble kind of strategy. So it is not only about competence and excellence, it is also about wisdom and vision. So you must have seen that NLP is very, very important tool to enhance your personality, your thought, and your communicative process. So that is why it is pragmatic school of thought. It is practical. It is not something that you get from the book, you get from somewhere. It is that you have to develop with the help of certain training and certain practice and certain exercises, and it is neuro-linguistic programming that will certainly help you to develop your skill as human being. Now, 6 main building blocks of NLP. What are those? Because we are still in the area, in the part of the introduction of NLP. As I said, that the name, the topic in question is sometimes very complicated. People think that it is a medical term, but it is very much a psychological term. It is very easy to know yourself. So what are the 6 main building blocks? The first is neuro. That is, it studies and works with the mind, how we think and how we store our past experiences, putting them to good use if the need arises. Exactly, this is how we develop our personality. We have everything in our mind. How we produce language, lang and parole, that is there. What is lang? What is parole? The abstract and the concrete knowledge of language. Similarly, the experience, the etiquette, the manners, the idea that this situation, what kind of situation is this and what kind of language is required. So you are talking to whom, talking what and why. These are very important part, and that the nervous system, the NLP programming provides you, supports you. Then linguistics, the use of language, verbal and non-verbal, both affects us, and NLP construct its model on that using language and language pattern towards the desired goals. This is a very professional world. So when you speak, how to speak, where to speak, as I added earlier. So it is very important that your verbal as well as your non-verbal gesture, posture should also be as per the need of the desired situation, because it is said that non-verbal is very important part of language. How? 65% of language, out of 100, it is non-verbal language that is important. So you have to take care of that also. And programming. What is programming? The ability to organize our action. Very important. Suppose you are giving presentation and you are unnerved, you are stressed, you are shy, you are introvert. It hardly matters when you are coming in front of the professional world. How to control, how to program the desired communication to the desired situation. So, the ability to organize our action, thoughts and access to our past experiences can be self-programmed, sequenced in the best way to aid in achieving our specific desired goals. As I said, that in this world of 21st century science and technology, you have to take experience of your previous experience and also the present situation. So this is how you program the desired, the required language, communication and your personality as the desired situation. Attitude, it works on the best physical and emotional state to accomplish a task and produce best result in different context. Your attitude, this is how I said the entire nervous system, the nerves, everything, this is the computer system, antenna is there and we receive all the emotions and the feelings. So how to control a particular feeling, that is our attitude. Modeling, this involves, that is to say, neuro-linguistics programming involves modeling successful people actions to achieve similar result. It starts by asking good questions and moves on to learning without letting our intellect therefore interfere with our learning. Yes, I mean, we learn with the help of experiences with other also. So questioning and answering, your self question also, you ask yourself. That is why NLP is also a kind of self discovery exercise. You question yourself and question other also, and you can make a framework for giving a very good communication that is professional. And then techniques, a positive attitude and a passion for modeling will result in many new techniques. Yes, if you have positive attitude to learn, to know your audience, to know your student, to know your client, to know your friends, you yourself can develop various techniques, which is, I mean, of course, neuro-linguistic programming, and people practicing neuro-linguistic programming have produced many useful techniques to help others to reach their objectives and overcome blocks where appropriate. So, what I want to say that when we discuss the introduction of neuro-linguistic programming, it is not a medical term that is neuro and linguistic and then programming. It is about your own self. It is a kind of self-discovery, how we control our brain, how we control our nervous system, how we work in a professional world with the help of programming. And linguistic, of course, language, that is the only mode, whether it is verbal or non-verbal, only mode to connect yourself with the other. And that is very important to move in the world, to achieve the destination and to get the desired goal. So still, we are discussing NLP and the introduction of NLP. Now, very important to know about neuro-linguistics fundamental presuppositions, because we are trying to unfold actually what neuro-linguistic programming is. The first presupposition is the map is not the territory. What does it mean that map is not the territory? As human beings, we can never know reality. That is true, because still there are things which need to be unlayered and which need to be unfolded. We can only know our perceptions of reality, whatever we see. What is the perception? Whatever we see from our naked eyes. We experience and respond to the world around us primarily through our sensory representational system, through nose, through eyes, I mean through mouth, smell, all of that. This is the sensory, system. It is our neuro-linguistic maps of reality that determines how we behave, and that give those behavioral meaning, not reality itself. Yes. Suppose I am looking at this table, this is the reality, this is the table, but there are other aspects also, that how to use this table, where to use this table, for whom this table should be used. So the reality, whatever we are seeing, is not the territory. Beyond that also, we apply our brain and we apply our senses as well. So it is generally not reality that limit us or empower us, but rather our map of reality. So map of reality means that the mind can move far and far. So whatever we are looking at, that this is a table, our mind, our nervous system can tell us more and more about this, the use of this. So this is the first presupposition, that map is not the territory. Now, the other is very, very important and valuable in this regard. Life and mind are systematic processes. Now, why life is systematic and why mind is systematic? Life depends on mind. If heart is important, mind or brain, that is very important. Remember, in the previous slide I said that neuro-linguistic programming is also a belief system. What is belief system? A kind of ideology. You have certain principles, you have certain ideas on which the entire your activity is based. So life and mind are systematic process. What does it mean? The processes that take place within a human being and between human beings and their environment are systematic. A life is systematic as we grow older and older, and with this growing of age we also get education according to the age, and later on work according to the age, according to the need. So it requires to adopt some kind of system if we talk of life and mind. So the process that take place within a human being and between human beings and their environment are systematic. Our bodies, our societies and our universe form an ecology of complex system and subsystems, all of which interact with and mutually influence each other. Very important point about the fundamental presuppositions of NLP. What it is? The ecology of complex system. What does it mean? Ecology of complex system? Your surroundings. Ecology means your surroundings. We are in a society. We are amidst human being. We are with the human being of various types. So the complex system, because man is a social animal, he cannot be isolated. So he is in a system, that is a society, ecology, complex system, and also subsystems which interact with and mutually influence each other. That is why it is said that it is the family, the house, that is the first college, that is the first school. From family we start learning right from our childhood. Later on in the society, because we start moving outside the home. That is why this ecology of complex system and subsystem also gives a kind of experience and a strategy to develop our personality. So such systems are based on certain self-organizing principles and naturally seek optimal states of balance or homeostasis. Now, in most of the interview I have seen, very good organization. So most of the interview, they gave the case studies to the student, solve it. Some case study which is very, very tough kind of situation. How to solve it? Because you are in a society, you are not alone. So what kind of a strategy you are going to apply to solve the problem? What kind of theory or technique you are going to make the system very smooth? Now this is all we learn with the passage of time, with our experience. That is why life and mind are systematic process. Life is something else and mind is something that we perceive, that we gather, and based on that we develop our personality, how to cope with the situation, how to handle the situation, how to foresee the situation. This is all our life and mind. So in essence, all of NLP is founded on two fundamental presuppositions. We talk about sixth sense. What is sixth sense? It is a kind of alertness. It is a kind of antenna. If you think more and more, naturally your antenna is alert, and that takes the vibration of the future happening. It happens. This is also a part of neuro-linguistic programming. So rightly said that map is not the territory. That is to say that whatever we see from our naked eyes, that is not only the reality. Even beyond that also there is a reality, and life and mind are systematic processes, moves with the passage of time very systematically and cohesively to make a person perfect. Then origin of NLP. Remember, we are discussing neuro-linguistic programming. So it is also very important to know about how these terms coined. Who was the originator of neuro-linguistic programming? In what condition neuro-linguistic programming originated? Who are the propounder of the term neuro-linguistic programming? So the two names occurred very prominently. John Grinder and Richard Blender. So whenever we talk of neuro-linguistic programming, it is Grinder and Blender for the purpose of making explicit models of human excellence. Human excellence. Now these two are the persons, and you can say the scientists who make use of neuro-linguistic programming. And the first work, The Structure of Magic Volume 1 and Volume 2, came out in 1975 and 1976 respectively, identified what they identified: the verbal and behavioral patterns of therapist Fritz Perls, the creator of Gestalt therapy, and Virginia Satir, internationally renowned family therapist. Now these two persons, they coined these two words to promote some kind of, help in the disease, in the personality. That is why they are using as a therapist. And the next work, Patterns of Hypnotic Technique of Milton H. Erickson and MD Volume 1 and 2, again 1975-76, examine the verbal and behavioral patterns of Milton Erickson. I mean, very famous name whenever we talk of hypnotic model of NLP, that we shall discuss later on, founder of the American Society of Clinical Hypnosis and one of the most widely acknowledged and clinically successful psychiatrists of our time. So we are discussing the NLP introduction and definition of introduction. That is why it is very important to know about the origination of NLP, and these two persons, they are responsible for coining this activity, that is neuro-linguistic programming. As a result of this earlier work, Grinder and Bandler formalized their modeling technique. As I was discussing, hypnotic technique by Milton. So it is a modeling technique and their own individual contributions under the name neuro-linguistic programming to symbolize the relationship between the brain, language and the body. I mean, this is how NLP came into existence. Now the basics of this model has been described in a series of books including Frogs into Princess, Bandler and Grinder 1979, Neuro-Linguistic Programming Volume 1, Dills, Grinder, Bandler, Deleuze 1980, Reframing, Bandler, Grinder 1982 and Using Your Brain, Bandler 1985. Though throughout the year, NLP has developed some very powerful tools and skills for communication and change in a wide range of professional areas, including counseling, psychotherapy, education, health, creativity, law, management, sales, leadership, and parenting too. So it is not only that in professional world it is important, even it is in the personal life it is very important. So today what we learned the introduction to NLP. What we learned, what should be the aptest definition of neuro-linguistic programming? It is the process of nervous system, then language, and then the processes of processing of the brain. How to process the language that is already there in our cognitive system. We also discussed that how and why we use it, and the two presuppositions that map is not the territory and life and mind go systematically. Whatever we see can be a perception. It is beyond that, and NLP is a therapy, a technique that gives us the insight, the very strength to know more and more about our nervous system so as to process a very fine communication model. Life and mind go systematically. We have also discussed today that there is a proper relation, a very close relation between life and mind. If the mind is controlled, life is controlled. So life and mind move strategically, very systematically and cohesively. And we have seen that it is Grinder and Bandler who coined this term neuro-linguistic programming. Now, in the later week, we shall discuss the modeling of NLP also. I have already started the modeling, because NLP is generally used in certain disease also, like aphasia, like forgetfulness, like some injury in the brain. So hypnotic process, that is a meta model, coined by the Milton Erickson. So we can discuss all these model and the strategy and the technique to counter such diseases. So it is not only, NLP is not only a kind of communication system, but it is also a kind of remedy to overcome like aphasia, like forgetfulness, and any mental injury. I think that in the present world, neuro-linguistic programming is very important to enhance one's personality. As I said, that in the coming week, I'll also discuss the scope of neuro-linguistic programming as well as the model. Thank you very much.